the one at the Atlas House. Which there happened to be some notification for. Actually, even that one I heard randomly. There really has been no notification. At the last meeting that took place, it was a point made to try to include everybody. There were names written down and to make sure that people were notified about it. I mean, one of the things I heard, which I believe is true, they were told not to talk to one of my neighbors because they were just concerned about her point of view. So that's an issue. And those are the things that are basically out there on the street.
Yeah,
that's a problem.
Yeah, I don't know anything. And again, I was depending on the residents that were clamoring for this meeting to notify people. And if that's, like I said, I take responsibility and I apologize. One other point I really want to address and just be clear. You addressed this whole comment of people are concerned about outsiders. And I know that's been a very sensitive subject on this issue. This topic was touched on briefly by Chief Shalal during one of the meetings. Someone sort of said, well, what do you mean by that? You know, and someone made the implication that these people that are causing some of these issues are not from around here. And the chief said, in no uncertain terms, he knows that because he asked the people for ID. So I don't want people to think any assumptions are being made. The reason, you know what I mean?
Well, actually, Michael, excuse me, sir, one second. Actually, Michael, that isn't my recollection. I was at the very first public safety meeting. I was there because Trustee Davis Ford had asked me to be there until she could get there, which was about 15 minutes or so. And it actually was a female resident because I was concerned about that comment. It was not Chief Shalal who had made that statement. And one of the things that we talked about at that first meeting is that it is a park. It is a public park. Individuals talked about the noise level. They knew that it was a park when they purchased that property. I'm not saying that we can't deal with certain other situations that occur at that park because there were many examples and I was just really surprised at what was occurring in that vicinity. But that wasn't Chief Shalal.
He said on a subsequent basis. So
he responded to that comment. But just to go back to some of the comments, is that I know that notice was given to people who were at Bob Adler's home that represented the Montrose district.
Notice? What notice?
About this meeting.
About this particular meeting on this date.
Correct.
At Bob Adler's meeting.
Excuse me. At the meeting, there were two individuals who were representative of the group. They were given notice of that meeting as well as the meeting that was held last night about a neighborhood watch initiation.
A date was given at Bob Adler's?
No, a date was not given at Bob Adler's. They were notified as representative of the Montrose group.
You know what?
What's the Montrose group?
Sir, I think your comments are very well taken, and Trustee Goldberg, I think, was very clear in accepting responsibility for us not reaching out adequately. I was going to ask Village Administrator, do we have a way to use our reverse 911 system to dial a specific neighborhood in advance of a meeting to notify people meetings in house? Can we circumscribe an area?
If it doesn't work, is the new one plugged in now?
The answer is yes. The system, we can do a geographic area on that.
And is that defined by somebody checking off streets, for example, or is it some other?
We can do it by topography. We can do it by mapping. Yes.
Okay. So that would be a way, just, we can advance a meeting like this where neighbors want to talk to a group of trustees, whoever it may be, or group of professionals to make sure we're dialing out to everybody in advance. But would it be workable to do what Trustee Rosner suggested? Conduct this meeting tomorrow as really as the first meeting, get initial feedback, and then set up a meeting a couple of weeks thereafter to continue to get feedback?
I would just like to make a couple comments. Couple things. I'm not sure if, I don't know if I agree that you should host it tomorrow. Maybe if we could just take responsibility of doing proper advertising so everyone feels inclusive. I think it's incumbent on the board to make sure if someone's coming and saying they don't feel like it's been inclusive, it hasn't been well advertised, let's take a step back and say, okay, let's move it out so that we can get proper notice out. I don't think there would be anything wrong with that. There's a couple comments also. Mr. Brown, you mentioned this meeting was sanctioned by the board. I don't know if that's proper comment because I'm not sure if all of us were aware of the meeting tomorrow in terms of who and what it was. So I definitely did not know the details, so I'm not going to say it was sanctioned by this board as a whole.
It was on the email, but I don't know about sanctioning.
Right.
It was an email that came to us. I was informed.
It came out of the Public Safety Committee.
It was a committee extension.
It came out of the Public Safety.
So, and secondly, there was a mention that it was a collaborative meeting with Public Safety, Public Works. If Public Works is involved, I'm not notified as the chair, so Public Works is not involved in this part of this meeting.
I meant Mario.
Okay, then I need to be notified of that because I'm the chair of Public Works. So again, not sanctioned by me as the chair, not sanctioned by me as a board. And then thirdly, I did speak to one of the gentlemen that lived on that side that for over an hour. And I made a suggestion, which I had brought up to you, Trustee Goldberg, of having an all-inclusive meeting and also inviting the Coalition on Race, because there was some concerns from this individual who was not a person of color, that it was a quality of life issue, and they wanted to be able to have a conversation, but not allow it to go into racial profiling, et cetera. And we had a very good conversation, and I suggested to him that we bring everybody to Village Hall and that we ask the Race on Coalition to sit in with us to talk about it, because we live in a diverse town, and these issues will come up if we're trying to look at quality of issues and they start touching on class, economic, and everything. It may happen. And the Coalition on Race was open to it, and I mentioned it to you. So I'm not sure if we were going to follow that, but I thought that was going to be the next step. And I had mentioned it to one of the people who initiated some of these home meetings. And I had asked, and I actually said I would bring it up to the Board of Trustees. I did that. I followed protocol and brought it to the Race on Coalition, trying to put together a procedure for us to do this and be inclusive.
Stacey, I think your points are well made. However, I think both things can be accomplished. The meeting is already scheduled for tomorrow, and that's just a meeting to hear, just to have discussions with the people.
But if we're not going to hear everybody.
But you will hear everybody, because another meeting will be scheduled and everybody will be invited. I agree with some of the things that you talked about, but it's not either or. We can do both. That will be inclusive. So for those who are able, who can come tomorrow, the meeting should go forward. Right. And then the meeting that you talked about to include some of the points that you just articulated should be included. And we have to do a better job. You know, it's a lesson learned in regards to communication. And we talked about going forward how we will communicate. It's a 3-tier process. We have the website to communicate, we have the news record, and now we're going to implement the reverse 911.
And that's fine. That's fine.
We got an inquiry today from residents on Beach Spring Road regarding speeding on North Ridgewood. And they would like to have a meeting with representatives of the neighborhood. This has been instructive for me because it becomes all too easy for me to communicate back to that point person and take a set up a meeting, not fully knowing whether or not they really communicated with all the neighbors.
Exactly.
So I don't think it's unique to Grove Park. It can happen in any neighborhood about a totally unrelated topic. So I think the lesson to be learned from this is that even though there may be nucleus of interest from 5 residents or 10 residents, we need to be more systematic and more careful about ensuring that we're letting everybody in the neighborhood know that we're going to have discussion.
And to your point, President Newman, I totally agree with you, and that's why I suggest we be able to be big enough and step back and say, you know what, maybe we didn't do due process to make everybody feel included. And so therefore, let's reappoint this meeting at another time so that we can do the right thing and make sure that everybody's included. And even if we, Trustee Davis Ford, even if we have this meeting, you're still allowing people to feel like it's one group versus another. And the way to avoid that is to bring everybody to the table and discuss the issues openly. It's the only way that you can do it and people feel like they're part of the whole community.
I lastly just want to say one thing. The one point that is brought up to me again is that at the last meeting I was here in Village Hall, I'm not sure if that was the last meeting, honestly, but at the last meeting we attended, the 3 of us all signed in, and the 3 families who have a dissenting opinion are the 3 families that weren't notified. I have no idea who was, but I know that the 3 families who came to the meeting that were of dissenting opinion had no notification of the meeting tomorrow. So when you say it's going to go forward, I really personally have a problem with it. I want to make sure I state that I have a problem with it, because if any of us had been notified, we would have notified the other person. was the fact that the three families that were of dissenting opinion were not notified about a meeting taking place about Grove Park says that there's a problem with people deciding purposely to leave us out of those conversations. So yes, may go forward. I will do my best to gather as many people as I can of dissenting opinion, and I have no idea what the discussion is tomorrow. That's the problem. I don't even know what's being discussed.
Well,
I will gather a lot of people